guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Pink Posh. They are having their November release, and so this is part of a blog hop. They are generously giving away a $20 gift certificate on each step. So make sure you comment before November 11th to possibly be pulled as a winner. And we're just going to get right into the card making. I am using the winter tags, the stamps and the dies, and then I'm also using this snowflake background. So we're working with a simplified color palette today. That is, I've pared it down to just like 2 or 3 colors, because sometimes I think, and you know me, I love all the colors, but sometimes I think it can be a little bit overwhelming. So here what I'm doing is I am creating an interesting background to house my tags, but it is not going to overwhelm. So I'm using a white pigment ink. You can either do it either way. I showed it both ways. You can do it with a brush, or you can do it with a dauber, or if you have like a pouncer type thing, you can use that too. And I'm doing it on craft. This is just to help the kind of the white show up a little bit better. You could also use, like a darker navy or purple, or even a darker teal, like whatever floats your boat. But I knew I was going to be using brighter colors in my simplified color palette, and so I wanted something that was a little bit more muted. I did do some splatters of some perfect pearls mixed with water to add some shine to the background. And now I am using, this is a opaque white acrylic spray, which is basically just like a fluid version of a white acrylic paint. You could do the same thing by putting down white acrylic paint and adding a little bit of water to it, and then spattering it onto your background. Here, I am going to stamp all of the images here. There are 5 different types of tags. I love the shapes of these. I think these are super cute. And so you can use them to make a card, which we are going to do, or to make a tag, which we are also going to do. So we're going to have a little matchy-matchy card and tag situation here. I am stamping these in ink that is safe for alcohol markers, because I am going to be coloring with my Copic markers. You can color them however you would like to. And I am, like I said, I'm just going to be sticking to just like 2 or 3 colors. So what is the benefit of sticking to 2 or 3 colors instead of just coloring it all of the things, right? All of the pretty colors. It helps everything to work together, to be a little bit more to fit together better. You always use the word to like make it a little bit more like copacetic, but basically that's the idea, is so that we don't have a bunch of different things that are competing. It also helps us, and you'll see in the way that I color the tags, it helps us to be a bit more creative when we kind of limit ourselves. It also helps us to be less overwhelmed, which I think is super important, and kind of like some of us are in a current state. Let's talk about the coloring real quick. So here I'm putting down the white, which is like the face and the belly of the penguin, and then obviously the snowman. They look really gray right now because we're just adding the shadows, but it won't stay that way. They will eventually look white. For the fuzzies on the little mittens, I'm doing just dots. I did get a little heavy-handed with them, I'll be honest. They didn't need to be that dark, but don't worry, we have a trick for lightening them up. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of shadow underneath the trees, and then down kind of around the bottom. Same thing I did with the snowman. I added some shadow down around the bottom. And then the other place that I added the shadow on the snowman was below his hat, because that would cast a shadow. But then where his head meets his body, adding that little bit of shadow there helps to give him a little bit more shape, so he doesn't look like just a blobby kind of snowman. So Once I have my whites colored, then I'm going to go in and do my black. Usually I try to work lightest to darkest, so that way I am not accidentally picking up darker color where I don't want it. But this time I wasn't sure exactly what my color palette was going to be, how I was going to narrow it down. And so I decided to do my neutrals first. And so when we're coloring something black with the penguin and the top hat, we do want to put actual black in it, even though it is scary, I know. So I put black where it was going to be the darkest, kind of under his belly, where his little earmuffs are sitting on top of his head, where his scarf is sitting on top of his body. And then I worked all the way out from that black, which is my darkest, to my lightest color, which is a C5. He still reads as black, even though we use different colors in there. And it's going to be the same thing for this hat. I'm going to do what we call a center highlight. And so I'm adding the darker colors to the left and the right hand side. And then I will do the lightest color or the highlight color in the middle. They will read as black, even though it goes out to kind of like a medium gray. But this just helps to give it a little bit more dimension. Just because our color palette is simplified doesn't mean that our coloring is necessarily simplified. Because when we are kind of limiting our color palette, it does help to have our coloring done well and our details added in, and we're going to add quite a few of those details. So I ended up going with kind of like a teal and pink. I do have a little bit of orange out of necessity because of the feet and the nose. And then on the tag, I did add in a little bit of green. But for like our card, it's really just those neutrals, that hot pink and the teal. And so these colors, because they're so bright, they're going to pop off of that snowflake background that we did that's much more muted, that it's not going to compete with each other. And it's going to make it kind of just easier because we know that we just have these colors that we, are using, and we can use them in many different ways. So for the teal, I chose to do the little penguin scarf and the band for their little earmuffs, the band on the hat, and then here I'm going to use it for the sky on one of the tags. The reason that I have two of those winter greetings ones is because I knew that I was going to have a card and a tag, and I was pretty sure that little snowflake tag, which is Darling, I was going to use that on the tag. And so I thought, well, I was going to need a longer tag to pair that with. And so I liked the little tree. And so I decided to use that. So here we're going to go from kind of like a darker horizon line up to a lighter green. I did end up bringing in an even lighter one. This is the BG quadruple 0, and took that all the way up. And then I'm going to use it to color in my mittens. So the mittens are just going to be the teal and the white. Like, not everything is going to have everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes there's no pink on this particular one. Now, could I have colored it in pink, or could I have done my mittens pink, or done like a stripe or something, a striped mitten with both of them? All of those are possibilities, absolutely. And so that's what I mean by it forces us to be a little bit more creative. We are forced to kind of look at it and be like, okay, how can I incorporate these colors into what I have so that everything works together? So here I'm going to use the teals to actually color the trees. And I didn't color them as if they had any snow on them. I just colored them green. But again, that is another detail that you could add. You could color them as if they had snow on them, and it would make those trees look different. So there's, kind of like forcing our brain to look at it a little bit differently and see the different variations that we could use. That also is going to help us, get the most out of our supplies. So now that I have the teal down, I'm going to go in with the pink. So I'm going to do the little earmuffs the same way that I did the fuzzy part of the gloves, and I'm just going to do it with a series of dots to fill those in. There, for the snowman, like everything is colored in except for the background. So I chose to color my background pink, which on any other day I probably would not even have considered coloring in the background around it. But because our main element is white, that being our snowman, it makes a lot of sense to color the background, and then that pushes him forward and makes him, shine in all of his little snowman glory. So I went ahead and colored that as well. And then for the the other one, this little snowflake one, I did color this with the same pinks, and I just started with the darker part around the snowflake, like I kind of just outlined it, and then worked my way out to my lightest color. Another way that you could get a very similar look is you could actually stamp this on pink paper in either a Versamark, like a clear embossing powder, or a white pigment ink, and you could heat emboss it, and that would be a really fun way to kind of get the snowflake onto a pink tag. Again, I like when mine are matchy-matchy. I also like a black outline. And so it did not bother me to do this. I did, like you can see here, and pinks are a little bit funny when it comes to the Copic families. The lighter colors typically lighten up the darker colors quite a bit. And so there was kind of a little bit of a disconnect from my darker color to my lighter color. So I am going to use what is called the tip to tip technique. And I am going to kind of rub my lighter color onto my darker color. And then I'm going to take that to the paper, and it will create a transition color for me so that everything blends together a little nicely. And then once I have that done, I am going to color this sky pink. Again, totally different than what I would usually reach for. Really fun though. I did want them to look just slightly different, so I chose to put a violet behind my pink. It's still going to read as pink. It's just going to make that portion of it just a little bit darker. So even though we're using that limited color palette, doesn't mean that we can't layer other colors so that we can get slightly different looks while still staying within that same kind of color family. So yeah, this morning I am doing, normally I don't do my voiceovers in the morning. Normally I would rather do them late at night. But with getting ready for Jelly Bean's birthday party, it just kind of ended up being one of those things. And then my husband had training this morning. He normally takes her to daycare, but he had training, and he had to be, registration opened at like 7:30. Ugh. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I don't have to do that anymore. I feel bad for him. But so anyway, so I took her to daycare today, and she was so sassy this morning. Like, she just wanted to, I don't want to wear a coat. It was 39 out. 39 degrees. I don't want to wear a coat. I'm like, I'm like, here's the thing. You can either go along, because she wanted to take fruit snacks with her. Well, she wanted to barter to eat them for breakfast, and I told her we weren't going to do that. And then, so she wanted to take them with her, for her part of her snack. And I was like, that's totally fine. So I was like, but if you don't cooperate, then we're not taking fruit snacks. And so she was kind of being a little bit argumentative about her coat. And I was like, here's the deal, my lovely, willful child. Either you put the coat on yourself and you can take the fruit snacks to Miss Lynn's, or I have to put the coat onto your body and then there are no fruit snacks. Your choice. Either way, the coat goes on. Here, I could not find my Color Splendor for some reason. I don't know why, and then I ended up finding my Olo one, which I haven't even been able to locate in forever, so thank my sister for that. But there was like just a couple of little areas where I kind of went out of the lines, and I wanted to make sure that these were going to be super clean with their white borders. So I cleaned those up. And then this has 3 different sized holes that you can cut out of your tags, and you can cut them at the same time. So for 3 of them, I cut them at the same time that I did the outline. And then for the other ones, after I cut out the tag, then I just put on the little hole and I ran them back through. So once I figured out my layout, I realized I needed another pink element on my card to make everything bit more balanced. And so I chose some pink cardstock. It turns out it didn't match exactly, but I'll show you how I fixed that anyway. And I chose one of the sentiments out of the Penguin Friends. It says, "Your snow much fun," which is adorable. And then I am going to white heat emboss this onto this pink cardstock. Again, just sticking with that kind of color palette that we have. And then I will, once I have it heat set with my white detail embossing powder, I will go ahead and trim it down. So Miley, she was trying to negotiate, and so eventually she did cooperate and did put the coat on, and then she was able to take her fruit snacks. But she was all ready this morning, like just in sass mode. She was like, "I don't want to go to daycare." And I was like, "Well, Mommy has to work." And she was like, "Well, then I'll stay with Daddy." And I was like, "Daddy's already gone, girl." I mean, I guess I am grateful that she likes to stay home and hang out with us, and she thinks we're so much fun. Yeah, like I would get no things done. I just wouldn't. So here I realized that my paper was not the same. It didn't have enough purple in it. It was like too pink. So I did put some picked raspberry over it, and then I even did a little bit of wilted violet, and then I just buffed off the top of that embossing, like the sentiment that's embossed, so that it wouldn't be sitting on top of there. I just buffed that off, and then it was good. It matched better. So for the actual tags, I cut an extra back piece, and this is to cover up all of that like coloring that we have going on, and also give us a little place to write our to and our from in our tags. So I just cut those out and put them together. In order to get the whole, I put the back piece and the front piece together, and then I just popped the die like into the hole that I had already cut out of the first, like the front of the tag, and just held it there with a piece of tape, and that worked really well. You could try gluing them together first and then doing the hole. I'm not sure if it would cut two pieces. Mine is 80 pound, so it probably would, but I'm not sure how clean it would be. So anyhow, I have some baker's twine here. It's just black and white. Again, neutrals. And then I fold it in half so that the two open ends I feed through the hole, and then that creates a little loop where they're folded, and then I just feed it through the loop and pull it. Now this doesn't have, because I've just cut the holes through, and I didn't put any hole, like the little protector part. Didn't I just do a video where I talked about this and I couldn't remember the name of it? Anyway, you don't want to pull it too hard because it's just paper. Like, you can't rip your paper. I would work the twine down, the loop down, and then pull it a little bit tight there. And then in order to help it so that I could kind of tuck all of this twine where I wanted it to go, I popped up all of my elements. So I'm just using some foam tape behind all of the tags, and then that heat embossed sentiment that we had. And then I've laid them out on my card after I glued my background piece to my card base. And then I'm going to tuck my strings kind of opposite directions, or just so that they're not all the same. So like the tree on the bottom right, I tuck the tag, the corded part to the right. This one up top with the cozy wishes, I tucked it to the left. And then like I just worked my way around. You can still kind of manipulate these to lay where you would like to go. Like this cozy wishes, originally when I put it down, I put the sentiment down. I had the twine sitting on top of it. I tucked that in eventually. So let's talk details. I oh, first of all, my penguin was floating in midair, so I did come back with those cool grays that we used for the white and give him a little bit of ground to stand on. I also went in with a clear glitter pen and added shimmer to well, a lot of things. The trees, the hat, the accessories on the penguin. And then I'm going to go in with my white gel pen. So I added some highlights to the hats. But for the fuzzy parts on the gloves and the earmuffs, I'm going to do the white dots. This is going to help them be brighter, but it's also going to help them look fuzzier because we're going to take those dots right over that black outline. In addition to the fuzzy parts that I put on the earmuffs, I'm also going to add a little polka dot pattern to my penguin's scarf. And then I'm going to add, it could be snow, it could be stars. I'm going to add some dots to my pink sky here to break that up. These ones are more like stars. And then the, I did add just some little dots to like the end of the snowflake, just to make it a little bit different, you know, make it more my own. And then I added the white dots in the background of this tag, but I added them over top of everything. So that one's more like snow falling in front of the trees. But I really feel like those little details kind of bring everything together, especially when you're working with more of a simplified color palette. But I do find it to be, you know, a little bit less overwhelming and a little bit more creative for myself. So you guys will have to tell me, you like using all the colors or just a simplified palette? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you leave a comment so that you're into the chance for the giveaway, and then you can follow along in the link below for the rest of the video hop. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.